I'm very happy to be here on behalf of the organization I work with called Black and Irish. So it was actually really nice to hear about all the work that's going on within these networks, and how Black and Irish could definitely be a part of this. I think we are doing archiving work for our community in the moment, which is really exciting. So it's really nice to be here and to be part of this, and for this opportunity to tell you all about what we're doing. So my name is Briana. I am the Director of Education with Black and Irish. I've been working with the organization since 2021. And I do a bit of, just to tell you a little bit about me, I'm a former secondary school teacher. This is my first year not in the classroom, so it's a bit weird. And I also do, with Black and Irish, what I do is I do anti-racism training for teachers especially, but for anybody really who asks for it. So it's been a really kind of interesting journey that I've been on the last couple of years. I've been living in Ireland since 2017. I married an Irish guy, and here I am. I'm originally from New York. And I like to say I'm Irish by choice. So that's kind of how I got to be here. But yeah, so I'll tell you a little bit about Black and Irish first. So we were founded in 2020. In the aftermath of the murder of George Floyd in the United States, the founders, Leon and Femi, they realized that the massive Black Lives Matter movement that was kind of taking a global stage for the first time was coming to Ireland, and it was very much present. We were in the middle, I'm sure we all remember 2020, we were in the middle of the pandemic. This kind of also exploded at the same time. We were forced to come to terms with everything that was going on a global scale. And I know within my own household, myself and my husband had conversations that we had never had before. So it was quite the kind of tearing open of things that were previously undiscussed, right? So Leon and Femi decided that while it was great that these things were finally coming to light, we needed to make sure there was an Irish context to this conversation. So they set up an Instagram page so that we could start telling and sharing and telling these stories from the community. So it was set up to really celebrate and bring awareness to the experiences of Black and mixed race people in Ireland. And if you look at the early Instagram stories and the posts and the stories that were shared, it's all just people individually writing into the page and sharing their experiences living, growing up, or just being Black and Irish. And some were full of joy, some were mixed in terms of joy and sadness and difficulty, some were pure difficulty. So what Leon kind of noticed what the guys noticed was that there were some themes that kind of popped up throughout all the stories. And they were themes of racism, they were themes of identity and having difficulty expressing their own identities. And they noticed that there was a real opportunity to do some really great stuff. So they set up an organization and they decided they'd work on things like education, like politics, and making sure there was more political representation for the community. They decided to work on media and entertainment, and again, making sure representation was where it should be in the public eye. We were working on community stuff, and so we've kind of gone through a couple iterations now. We're now a nonprofit organization with actually 2 new team members just joined as of this morning. So I think there's 18 of us on the team. We're all volunteers. And we are working on getting some funding, so maybe we can change that. But we are working on really 3 main areas now, and they are advocacy, community, and education. So it's been a really interesting journey, as I said before, to kind of be on this ride with everybody and seeing where we go next. But in terms of the community archives and telling our stories, again, here's the Instagram page. This is the heart of it all. We're also on Twitter, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, which is a weird place to be, as is Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. But the Instagram page is the heart of Black and Irish, and there's just a couple of stories there. But again, this was really set up to tell stories. This was set up to make sure that the stories of previously unheard voices were finally being heard. And what happened with the Instagram page, actually, it started in 2020, it was June 2020, and it went viral really quickly. There were 10,000 followers within the first week. Leo Varadkar actually shared the page, and I think that kind of helped to spread the awareness. The guys were on the Euro News, like they were all over the place, and they started doing public appearances and speaking events and things like that. So we now have, well, I'll tell you how many followers we have now, but it became such a viral sensation that there was clearly this appetite to hear these stories. I think people realized that there there were Black and Irish people here, and actually it was interesting to see in the global context of people saying, like, especially in America, oh, there's Black people in Ireland. So that was also really, I think, and also fascinating for the guys to, I knew that American people would say that, but it was interesting to see the guys who have grown up here to say, like, why wouldn't people know that? You know, like, where is the consciousness, where is the disconnect in the global consciousness in terms of race and identity, right? So we wanted to make sure that we're highlighting successes, that we're shedding light on challenges, and that we're empowering a community. If you can see, it's probably hard to read those, but those stories were written by the people that they're about. They weren't written by the guys that were running the page. They were written by them themselves. They would send in a picture. They had a little Google form. You'd write your name and then tell your story in however many characters. And so it was really empowering, I think, for the community. And there was such an influx. They had too many stories to tell. And it's been an amazing kind of thing to see that people like Boydu, he's a Westmeath GAA player, to just see that he could have his story put on a global scale and on a global stage was really empowering, not just for him, but for the rest of the community as well. And actually, we have Miss Ireland, I think the last 3 Miss Irelands have all been Black and Irish, which is really fascinating and interesting and cool. So we don't just have the podcast, the Instagram page. After the Instagram page became so popular, RTE approached the organization and said, how about we do a podcast? So the podcast has also been going since 2020, and it is in partnership with RTE. And again, it's the same kind of thing about the same themes throughout. So it's about telling stories. It's about previously unheard voices finally being heard. It's shedding light on those challenges, and again, empowering a community. So there were 2 seasons. I'm actually on season 2. There's one about racism in education, so you can listen to that one if you like and hear my lovely voice again. That was actually the first week I was on the team. Funny story. I had just joined the team, and I literally got a text like the next day from Leon saying, could you do the podcast with us? And it was 2021. We were at home. Like, I had to do it in my spare room, and I had to put pillows. Has anyone ever done a podcast from home? You had to put pillows around myself so that I could talk, and it sounded really good. And Emer O'Neill is a fabulous educator and was already an anti-racism advocate, and she's on the podcast, and I said, what do you want me for? So that was my first trial by fire, I suppose, onto the team, and here I am doing stuff like this. But yeah, the podcast has, if you go into the early, actually my favorite season is season 2 because they really talk about identity, and it kind of has a little bit of, the growing pains are a little bit gone from it, and it's really, really secure in its voice, and it's really firm about what Black and Irish people have to deal with and go through on a regular basis, and in terms of identity and defining oneself for oneself, as Audre Lorde would have said, it's really incredibly powerful. So please give that a listen. And it's kind of out of seasons now. It's just kind of ongoing at this stage, so which is really cool. So in terms of our reach, our Instagram page has 55.6 thousand followers, give or take. So we're quite popular, I suppose. And in terms of who are our followers, the vast majority of them are within Ireland. There's also a whole lot in the UK, and there's also loads in America, and then on a global scale. I think the age grouping is the most amount is between 25 and 44 or so that's that kind of core group. And there are about 680 posts, I'd say more now, because we've been posting about our book a lot, so there's a lot more posts. I'll tell you about our book in a second. But about 680 posts. So if you see those first few hundred actually are all stories like what I showed you before. They're all people telling their individual stories, which is really, really awesome. And there are about 35 episodes of the podcast, maybe a bit more since I made these slides. So they're kind of coming out on a weekly or bi-weekly basis at the moment. And again, these are all just ways that we are archiving the current moment. Like, we're archiving in the moment, which is really, really cool, and it's fascinating to be a part of. So here's one other thing we're doing, which is our book, and I have it here. Ta-da! Well, thank you. So Leon and I actually wrote the book, so it's crazy, and it comes out officially on Sunday. But it's here also. And stories. These are stories. It's 25 stories of influential people. They're little mini biographies. This is not a work of fiction. This is pure nonfiction. And everybody told their own story. Again, Leon and I wrote the stories, but it's through the mouths of the people who lived them. We interviewed as many people as we could, and we actually had previous interviews from like Emma Dabbery and Boydu. We had interviews already with them because they'd contributed to the page, and it's written for the young adult audience. So it's beautifully illustrated. I'll show you the illustrations in a moment. But it's colorful, it's accessible, it's not a massive tome. Like, we're hoping that teenagers won't be afraid to pick this up. It's colorful on purpose, like it's supposed to get your attention. Pick this book up is what it's supposed to say. And it's, again, just another way that we're archiving in very real time what's going on within our community. So we published it in partnership with Little Island Books. That QR code takes you to the link if you want to buy it. And yeah, it's in bookshops. I think it's actually in bookshops already, but definitely by Sunday. So who's in the book? Okay. We've got some stories. So we've got Ruth Negga. She's the Hollywood actress. She's Academy-nominated actress. She did an interview with Leon on a trip while she was here. She sat down with him and told her story. And Leon says that of course, I was at work. But Leon said they were all in tears while she was telling her story. It's really a fascinating and quite moving story. And we were really lucky to have her contribute to the book. We've got Phil Linnett. So obviously we couldn't interview Phil, but it was really important that he be included. And actually, his artwork is probably my favorite of all of them. So I think it's just really fascinating. And you can tell my 7-year-old daughter actually realized that the cover is the same thing that's around his head, which is really cool. So there you go. And then we have Emma Dabbery. So she's an author, a historian. I think she's probably known to you guys a bit because she would fall right into what everybody's trying to do here as well. And she also has her own book coming out next week, so you should get that too. And then we have Rashida Adeliki. So she is all over the place right now. She's the fastest woman in Ireland, and she is doing massive strides, massive things for the running world. So we're really proud to have her in the book. And we have Gavin Bazunu, who's a footballer. He's on the Irish national team. And what team does he play for in the Premier League? I don't remember. I didn't write that chapter. And then we have Beryl Ohas, who is an LGBTQIA+ activist. So we were really, really intentional about making sure that we weren't just telling stories of Ruth Negga, the Hollywood actress who people would know, or Gavin. We wanted to make sure that also someone like Beryl, who is maybe not a well-known person, but is doing amazing work within her communities, that her story's in there as well. And actually, it might be a tie for her. I actually really love her illustration as well. So there's a really good swatch of people in this book that I'm really proud that we put this kind of group together. And we probably have enough to write another volume, to be honest. And I'll just kind of end with this quote from Sue Monk Kidd, just that stories have to be told or they die, and when they die, we can't remember who we are or why we're here. And I think this is kind of, that when I read that, I said, oh, that's at the heart of Black and Irish as well. We want to make sure our stories are being told by us so that they're remembered forever. They're always on the internet. Now we've even got it in print, and and then the podcast as well. It's just so important that those stories are out there and that they are from us. So that's it. Thank you so much. Time.